Greetings, Geechlings, or should I say, football heads, because this is my review of Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie. Overall, I did love it. It was a nice send-off for the series. While there was a little bit of a... I watched another review and they kind of said that there might be another hint for it, or a hint towards the end of a sixth season, which I was like, there's been 6 seasons to Hey Arnold. But, itchy ear aside, the plot is basically this. Arnold's still having, like, traumatic dreams, which, of his missing parents. The scene where, their faces are all blackened out, and he's like, every time he gets near them, they kind of teleport away. And then there's finally the hole in his heart, which very powerful little scene from, a kid's cartoon, forms in his chest. The pain he feels physically manifests in his dreams. And he wakes up. He runs to the house to realize, yes, his parents are gone. As he's apparently had this going on, presumably for the last few months anyway, since the Journal, which was the last of the TV series. But anyway, he eventually does get the chance to go to San Lorenzo, which is the last known location of his parents before they went missing. And there's a contest. It was the last day of school, but there was a contest for some reason. It's like, they may not even be going to the same school next year, so why are you having a contest now? You may never gather those kids up again. But anyway, it was for a Habitats of Humanity kind of thing, and he couldn't pass it up given that it was in that location. So he goes to film how he helps the community, which, if anybody knows the show Hey Arnold, he's a kid that really helps his community. I mean, community service is like his hobby. He helps Monkey Man, who apparently since the TV show has literally just become a Pokemon. He can only say his name, Monkey Man! And he's living down by the river, except not in a van. So they used the various junk, build him a house, the day that they were going to film it. All the other homeless people, for some reason, got jealous and just started wrecking the thing. It was a 3-story houseboat. They could have lived there too. Anyway, so that throws off the plan. They only had a week to film the project to try to enter into the contest, and now that's blown. So his chance of ever seeing his parents again has now diminished forever. But the people doing the contest are like, hey, we saw your video. And he's like, what video? I never did it. Well, turns out Helga, not his love interest, he's her love interest. And she's actually been filming him which I thought was kind of creepy, because she was hiding up in the tree, be like, yeah, you do that, football head, yeah, you help those people, which was a nice callback to the series, because it showed a lot of different angled scenes from the show, like when he helped what was his name? He was like a Babe Ruth excerpt character. When he helped Stoop Kid, Pigeon Man, all this other stuff, and I was like, that's a lovely send back to the show. And it was the show itself, is that he just helped people. So I thought it was all around a great idea to do. Just creepy of how she did it. She had a whole room of videos. That girl had it bad. She was a thirsty one. But, so they made a movie. They go up to the roof of the boarding house where Arnold lives with his grandparents. Everyone gathered to watch it. We got to see the Pigeon Man, who's now living in France, helping the pigeons there. There's a lot of pigeons in, Paris and everything, so hey, works. which there was a theory going around for years, because this is 13 years after, this movie came out like 13 years after the last episode. So yeah, a lot of time to theorize that he had committed suicide in his episode. So, which Craig Bartlett, the creator of the show, was like, no, I don't kill my characters. Well, funny that, because the villain dies in this movie, so oh, you broke your own promise there, Bartlett, old boy. But yeah, they make a film of showing all the things that he's done for his community. They accepted him as the winner, so him and his whole class, for some reason, plot, all load up on a plane, head on down to San Lorenzo, which is in Argentina. They go. Grandfather gives Arnold his pet pig in a duffel bag. He plays an annoying part later in the movie. They feed him bacon for some reason. Oh, weird. But anyway, they get down there. Arnold had a map from the journal that his father had written and everything, so he has a general idea of where they might be. It was in an unknown part of the map towards the jungle, and what was it? Oh yeah, he knows the address of one of his parents' old friends, Eduardo. So they go while they were waiting, for whatever reason, I don't even remember now, but to check up on him because it had an address, and I was like, maybe he knows where they are. Well, they find his home ransacked, and I even took note of this when I watched the movie the first time. It's like that there was a picture of the three of them in it, and his face was ripped out, and I was like, okay, that's going to play a part in it, and it does. It so does. So, but anyway, so they meet up with him. They all load up on his boat. He takes them down the river to where the Habitat project is going on. They get, after being on the boat for, I'd say 12 hours or so, they get attacked by pirates. Abner the pig bails. Helga had a little moment with Arnold. He's kind of, he wants to do this. She's in love with him. She was trying to confess to him, and she has this little locket, a little heart-shaped locket. I can't do a heart with my hands right now. She had ripped up the picture, threw it out. There's this creepy kid named Brainy. He ends up saving it. This becomes relevant in the plot later. But yeah, they eventually get like shanghaied. They have to abandon the ship. It had caught on fire. So they traverse through the jungle, not the forest. It was just a short way to the construction site. They head there, all to find out that Eduardo is the villain. Turns out it's La Sombra, which I don't know what that translates into Spanish. I forgot to look that up. Turns out the whole thing was a ruse to get Arnold there, because he is the chosen one. Because the whole reason Arnold's parents went missing is because in that general area, in that unknown part of the jungle, there is a tribe known as the Green-Eyed People. They had a sleeping sickness or disease 9 years ago when Arnold was a baby. That's why they left. They had cured it once before Arnold was born. And when Arnold was born, a volcano happened, or it erupted, and when he was born, it stopped, and they took that as a sign that he was the chosen one, Well, roughly a year later, the illness has struck the village again, so his parents go off to cure them again. And then they never came back. 9 years have passed since then. Heartbreak City, I know. Well, with Arnold being the chosen one, like, he gets an amulet from Eduardo, which has a tracking device in it. But yeah, Lasombra wants him to take, or wants Arnold to take him to the village so he can take their sacred treasure, which is a literal golden heart. Arnold refuses. His friends had all been captured, but they were able to. Him, his best friend Gerald, and Helga escaped with the help of the other kids. They flee into the jungle. They traverse it. They also some traps that the Green-Eyed had laid out to protect their little village. And then using the map and the Green-Eyed amulet, they find the village. And they discover there's only children. Apparently the sleeping disease only affects adults for some reason. I don't know. And we get to see Arnold's parents again, which is not the first time we've actually seen them, but they have aged a little bit. His mother had like a white streak or a graying streak in her hair, and his father kind of looked like he might have had one, but it was very light, so it might have been overall his whole hair. I'm not sure. So they have visibly aged, which I guess is alright. I mean, it's been 9 years, but how does someone survive in a coma for 9 years in a very primitive location? And also I have problems about the kids, but because most of them, I don't know when everyone would have been afflicted, so, but we'll get into that later, if I think about it. But, so yeah, everyone's been, or all the adults were afflicted, and they have to find out using some, like, what do they call it, mosaics, or murals, that, like, Arnold is the chosen one. He's a football-headed god of some sort in their, like, mythos. And they had, like, his parents making the cure and everything, and they were like, you can help us, you must use our... Well, they were all talking in, I assume, was Spanish or something. I'm not sure. I didn't speak the language, obviously. So I don't have a clue if that's what they were speaking, or it could have just been gibberish. I'm losing track of myself here. With that, they tried to do it. Well, there's a weird mechanism to all of this. They needed the golden heart that acts as a key. I had a problem with that. Because you have, like, why this specific thing? It could have been literally just a button that they had installed in this mechanism. But more on that later. So yeah, that happens. Turns out Lasombra had been following them. He basically killed all of his men trying to get to the village because he was using them as, like, ways to get through all the traps, which didn't expect that. I mean, there was literally a guy with arrows all through him, and one guy fell to his death, and then the other ones were crushed in a kind of like a cave-in kind of thing. So yeah, he's very ruthless, and I did not expect to see that. Good on you, Nickelodeon, for actually showing violence like that. But so he makes it into the village. He takes the sacred, like, statue that holds the heart. He kidnaps Arnold, goes over this bridge. Gerald and Helga try to follow, but he ends up cutting the bridge. They fall, but you know how that goes. It's still hanging on. Well, no, wait. He didn't cut the bridge. He was going to. It snapped. Yeah. It's one of those old bridges, you know. Every jungle has them. No one ever replaces the rope bridges that have a horrible chasm underneath them. But, Arnold using the little amulet which lets him see things. That's how he was reading the map, by the way. I forgot to mention that. He was able to look on the statue, see all the, like, buttons to open up the statue, and then the golden heart. Well, during a bit of a squabble, he closed it again, and it fell off or no, wait, it didn't do that yet. But La Sombra tried to open it. He got a dart in the head, a poison dart. Another problem I have, we'll get to that, maybe, I don't know. You know, me and rambles. But, yeah, he gets a dart in the head, falls off the cliff. The real Eduardo shows up, saves the kids because Arnold had fallen too, but he landed on the bridge with his buddies, so, you know, he was relatively safe. Yeah, you know, as much as safe as holding on to an old rickety rope bridge that's just hanging on one side of a cliff, you know. Movies. But yeah, the real Eduardo shows up, he throws a rope down for them, they climb up. He looks very much the same as La Sombra, and people have theorized that maybe they were twins, but not exactly alike, so that you could tell the difference, which is why the picture that I mentioned way earlier was ripped. It was so that they wouldn't know when they went to his apartment, because he had never met him before, which then further why it even mattered, but whatever. Little details, I suppose. Anyway, while all this is going on, the pig has made it all the way back to America. He made it on a plane. He had been chased by a snake. He was in first class. The snake was in coach. Weird scene. I didn't like it. That was how. But anyway, he makes it back home. He informs the grandparents. They knew that their grandson Arnold was in trouble. But, you know, that's not a whole lot of information. It's like, okay, boy, tell me where he is. How's the pig gonna know? They could have been in another country by now, you know. Weird things in movies. But yeah, also the kids that were also being held in captivity, along with their teacher, Mr. Simmons, who has gone crazy, mind you. He's trying to teach the monkeys and stuff because he's a teacher. It's literally been there like 6 hours. He should not be, or, well, 12 hours. Why is he gone crazy and no one else has? I don't get it. Well, anyway, they basically do a diversion to try and get the guards knocked out and trapped. Then they rig up a beeper and cell phone contraption to send an SOS signal that goes to Helga's parents. They didn't care about Helga at first. It was kind of cool. They had a cell phone in the center, some coat hangers with all the beepers and stuff. And then his business is all about beepers, which are those old pagers from the 90s. Which, why is it still a thing in this movie? Which is another problem I had with the movie. But, don't get me wrong, I love the movie, but there were some inconsistent problems. But, he gets the SOS. They were worried more about their older daughter, who was acting as a chaperone for the trip. And, yeah, so they go there. The grandparents meet up with them at the airport. The four of them head on off to Argentina and to San Lorenzo. And, yeah, so now we have a search and rescue party, essentially, for the kids. Funny little fight scene occurs. Then back to the village. Or not, well, yeah. Eduardo had led the kids back to the green-eyed village, and they try to, yet again, work the mechanism to... It's a dispersal thing in the middle of the village, which I'm wondering how long have they been dealing with this to have a mechanism that works this way. Because it mixes the cure with water, sprays it into the air, makes a rain cloud, rains it down on the village, which also it opens up the roofs of the village. This is a very sophisticated system for primitive people, mind you. But I hate that the key to it all is this heart. Why did it have to be made out of gold? Why did it need to be a key? Why not just a button that's always installed? Especially if it keeps happening every few years. Well, luckily some cure, like herbal cure, had already been made, so they just had to load it up. But the problem is they couldn't disperse it without the heart key. Well, Helga had already been given her little pendant, the little heart pinned it. I can't make a good heart. By Brainy, back when they were still being held captive. So she was like, maybe we try this. It's gold plated and it's kind of a heart. And Arnold says a nice little thing, and it was like, even though it's not real gold, it's still a heart. And that he mentions it was more of an allusion to her own heart, that while it's not entirely pure, it's purer than she thinks, which was a very nice moment. So they essentially just jam it into the hole, which I'm like, why? They could have used anything. But it's more symbolic than anything. They do that. It disperses the cure. It rains down. People start waking up, which, here's something that I made note of, is that there were butterflies on all the sleeping people. I think the butterflies are the source of the disease, because as soon as the cure was rained down, they flew off. And just like in The Simpsons, when Bart wanted to be reincarnated as a butterfly, no one suspects the butterfly. So yeah, I think the butterflies are the, poisons, toxins that animals have to survive, and how humans don't react well to such things. It would not surprise me if these butterflies are toxic. They literally just put people into comas. But, so yeah, everyone's waking up. Arnold's running to the room that his parents were in, and at first it looks like they did not survive, which I thought was a load of bull, tug on the heartstrings, because everyone else, who presumably has been asleep at roughly the same amount of time, why they're waking up. But they do wake up. That he gets tears in his eyes. It's a lovely family reunion that we have been waiting over 13 years for. So this was a very nice moment. Then, things kind of get quickly wrapped up. From there, they're back home. Arnold wakes up yet again. Or no, wait. They throw a bit of a party. He kisses Helga, so they are an item now. Which was nice. She deserved it. She's helped him a lot throughout the series, even though she acted like she didn't want to. So, that's her little reward for all of the suffering that sometimes she causes. But, so that happens. But then things kind of got wrapped up. Everyone goes back home. We end up, back in the dream. Arnold's having, a similar dream to what he had at the beginning of the movie. And he wakes up, he runs down, Mom, Dad, where are you? And it's more or less almost a shot for what happened at the beginning of the movie. He sees everyone else, which his grandmother was on strike at the beginning of the movie. And she's still on strike, which this is weird because later we find out this is basically 3 months later. Why is he having problems with his... why does he not remember that his parents are living there, which they were actually cooking breakfast in the kitchen? So why is the grandmother still on strike when she's not even having to work right now? Whatever. Inconsistencies, I suppose. Also, they continue to feed the pig bacon. But anyway, he's like, it's first day of school, I gotta go. His parents walk him to school and they wait outside for him. Why they didn't seem to know that he had to go to school. They've surely gotten to know much of his life in the 3 months that they've been reunited. So, yeah, I know they've never raised a child of school age yet, but still, weird, That was a problem I had with is there was a weird ending, Why? Overall, the movie should have taken place over the course of about 2 weeks. Because you had 1 week at the start of the movie, that was when the project was due. Then you had basically 2 or 3 days in the jungle. Say about another day for travel. So you have close to 15, or not 15, why am I saying 15? About 10 to 12 days overall. But then they just do that weird 3-month time skip. But anyway, overall it was a good movie. But kind of the positives I derived from it was that most of the characters got a moment to shine or lend a hand during the plot. There was plenty of callbacks to the series as a whole, which for the older fans like me who grew up on the show, it was a great thing to be, remember all those moments, so the nostalgia was there. It had all the elements of an enjoyable series finale, should it be the finale. My neutral points are that the redesigns, they took a little getting used to, but overall you get used to it. I mean, it's been 13 years, animation techniques and technologies have advanced, so things change. Most of the characters really didn't have much to do in the climax, and I only list this as a neutral because it was more for the plot device than anything. And the movie wasn't to resolve their character arcs, it was to resolve Arnold's character arc. So, yeah, I just consider it neutral. Negatives were the Flanderization of characters. Mostly it was the side characters that didn't really have any real to-do, like what I just mentioned. So they are kind of one note, which if you don't know what Flanderization is, it's basically, and it's derived from Ned Flanders because it happened to him as notable, or a notable character to have happened to, and it's basically like some of the key traits that a character has, that becomes all the character is and has. So, yeah. Also, the predictable plot, the villain reveal that he was actually an ally, but then he's the villain. The whole start of it where Arnold gets the possibility to travel to where his parents disappeared, things like that. But it's a kid's movie, it's going to happen. And then the final couple scenes with his parents, in the house and everything, and when he woke up, that kind of a sour note for me. But, and then some other plot issues I had was the flowing timeline. You have Big Bob, that's Helga's dad. He's still selling beepers. And be it, if we're supposed to believe this is only a few months after the last episode of the series, okay, but we do see fairly modern cell phones in the movie, because one of the characters who they used her cell phone during the climax to call for help looked like maybe like an original iPhone or smartphone or something. So yeah, cell phones of modern design do exist, and people don't use beepers anymore because of that. So yeah, I thought that was weird. And then the whole Abner the pig, how he got home, that was a load of bunk. And then how the grandparents knew exactly where to go and stuff, even though things could have easily changed. So, it's not like a message in a bottle kind of thing, I would guess. And then La Sombra, he survives the first fall. He falls off the cliff and then he climbed back up. He had a dart in the head with poison in it. He fell off the cliff, and then when Eduardo showed up, he threw the rope. There was only about maybe 5 feet of the bridge that the kids were hanging off of. So why did he throw a rope so far down to begin with? And also, La Sombra had fallen before he had ever shown up. So there was way too much time for him to been able to. He would have already been long gone to grab the rope. And the weird time skip at the end, stuff like that. But those were my biggest issues with it. But overall, I'll give this 4.5 out of 5 for a great finale. It did the series a great service, so I congratulate the creator, Craig Bartlett, and all people involved in the series. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I plan on watching it at least one more time, and maybe more, who knows. And I may also do other things later down the road, like top 5s and stuff of my favorite episodes, but I have to watch them again, obviously. But anyway, thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Geeslings, roll out.